So within you lies the entire universe, so to speak. Because if you look at it, you didn't sit down and create yourself. Neither did our parents. Mom and dad didn't have a discussion sitting down and saying, okay, little Vignesh must have 2 hands. No, we want 3. They didn't have that discussion because it's not possible. There's only one hand that guided your growth, your creation, and all of that. So if you take a look at that hand, it's the same hand that created the universe. So the argument is, the same hand created the universe, created you, right? So hence, the entire universe, in essence, lies here too. Do you get my point? So the self-mastery process is just a matter of you getting better every single day. And festivals, especially birthdays, New Year, time for resolutions are born again, as you said, rightfully. It's important to remember that your true birthday begins when you begin to recognize your purpose. Identifying your purpose in life. Why am I here? What am I doing? What can I achieve? Are you with me? And this purpose will keep growing year to year. It will change every birthday. It will re-evolve. It will redesign itself, as it should. Are you with me? The dreams you had when you were 5 all disappeared before you were 15. Are you with me? And dreams at 15 don't exist at 25. Are you with me? So it evolves. Hence, you must dream, you must dare to dream. But at the same time, never forgetting that your purpose is something that you will keep looking for every birthday, every festival, every holiday, every opportunity. Because every time you are celebrating a festival, you have just gone 365 days around the sun. Has gone 365 days since the last festival. So the question you have to ask yourself is, in this rotation, have I changed? Have I grown? Am I better? If not, what have I been doing? If there were other kinds of masteries to be compared with, then you would say that self-mastery has to compete with so many others. Any mastery of anything. You want to learn a language? Self-mastery. You want to learn archery? Self-mastery. You want to learn to be a better entrepreneur? Self-mastery. Whatever it is that you want to conquer in this planet, be it a mountain or a language, be it about, earning $1 million or changing the world we live in, is all about self-mastery. You cannot change anyone. You can only inspire them, which means that you change them by changing yourself. I actually picked up the Coach A, Coach B reference from an ancient treatise written by Chanakya. Chanakya wrote a treatise called Arthashastra, which is very much like Sun-Tzu's Art of War. The Arthashastra, which is over 1,000 years old now, and in it there is a small treatise on the concept of relationship and the 4 aspects of relationships. So you have Sama, Dana, Peda, Dandam. These are the 4 levels in Sanskrit. Coach A and Coach B comes just from the first 2, Sama, Dana. Approaching it comes from the word, Samadana, which means to approach it with affection, with balance, with equanimity. So you always try to be Coach A first in every relationship. The Coach A is someone who cajoles you, who basically praises you, compliments you, uplifts you in order to deal with a challenge, a problem, and Coach A is always welcome. So Coach B is when you go from Sama to Dana. So in the practice of Dana, Sama, Dana, Peda, Dandam. In Dana, you become a little bit more harsh. You push the person to their limits. In essence, you make the person reach out within themselves to their limits. Now, the objective of both Sama and Dana is to reach limits. And in a relationship, testing the limits is a very important process. So samadhana is that process of testing and forging a relationship. Forging is an important word. Again, like muscles being built, they need to be torn and grown back together. Likewise, in a relationship, you go through samadhana, peda, dandam very often. It's a cycle that happens many, many times. In a marriage, it happens continuously. Peda is very important. When Sama and Dana, coach A and coach B, have been tried and lost, or wasted, or not effective enough, then Peda kicks in. Peda is where you find a third person to come in, and third person that both of you, the two parties, respect. So you go before a third person and say, okay, this is our problem. I think this way, he thinks that way. I have tried being nice, I have tried being tough. It's not working. Now, logically, the third person should then come in and support one or the other. And both of you should learn, both parties should learn to accept this. So this process of Peda is also very important. But then we are human beings. Even Peda fails, more often than not. And when that happens, you go to Dandam. Break the relationship, cool off for a while, start all over again. Are you with me? And it's the same thing, be it kids, be it parents, be it in any relationship at any level. Boss and employee, same thing. You have to go through that cycle. It's only when you go and you actually take the relationship to its breaking point, or even allow it to break, and forge it back again, does a new base come into place. And does mutual respect actually start to grow. So coach A, coach B are the stage 1 and stage 2 of this art of relationship. Sama, Dana, Peda, Dandam. And when Dandam is not, it's not a infinite end. It's a finite end, meaning you start all over again. Are you with me? So Dandam can happen daily, and that's not a problem. Do you get my point? The trick is to recognize that there are no back doors to your relationship. There should be no back door. As long as a back door is open, no relationship is safe. I have always looked upon leadership as a family being built. So, in essence, during the good time, that's probably the time that you have the opportunity to instill certain things, First of all, when we talk about love, loyalty, service, these 3 things are things that are easier assimilated during good times. When you try to preach it during the tougher times, they are just too busy surviving to try and assimilate all of this. But during the good times, you have an opportunity to reach them. Just like children who are growing up in your own home, your family, it is your best hope of reaching them before they get to 12 or 15. By the time they are at 12, you're already losing them. Now the same thing happens to every leader at some point. When they first come in, they are very open. They are ready to receive. They are actually, full of enthusiasm. That is the moment where you actually can penetrate the most. Sadly, what we do during good times is we tend to celebrate with them more. My own approach towards leadership training is to be exceptionally hard during the good times. It's the bad times that they need the actual rah-rah sessions, and they need to see the smile, they need to see the actual, so-called support systems kicking in. But during the good times, that's probably at the beginning of every relationship, you have the best opportunity to go as deep as you can. To speak of our own relationship right now, sir. You're busy. You're out there, you're working, you're networking, you're doing this, that, and the other, and you have to kind of balance all of that to find time to spend with me. Whereas in the early days, it was at a drop of a hat. Every day. Now, what we were able to achieve in the early days is what's carrying you now. So if you want to talk about bad times per se, or tough times per se, we talk about, the good times. And the good times tend to be also very much at the beginning of every relationship. So like building a family, you have to do it stage by stage. So you have to have actually in your mind a step process where you are going to be saying, I'm going to be building love and loyalty and service. I'm going to be building it, in a step fashion. where I'm going to penetrate as deep as I can. And that's the opportunity that you will get to go as deep and as hard as you can. People tend to be more idealistic at the very beginning. They're open, they're willing to listen to your concepts, your ideas and everything. And you need to actually get them at that point to argue, to discuss and argue and open up and say whatever they want to say. Because if they don't do it at the beginning, they'll never do it later on. It must come into a habit for them to discuss and argue and challenge you. And you raise these principles up at the beginning and say, why are these principles not, important to you? They need to be important to you. And at some point, whether or not they actually start practicing it, they need to understand it first. Are you with me? So you see, at that moment you can get them to be more humble, like say in terms of service per se. You can get them to do things that they might find a little bit more difficult once success comes in. Now, in terms of bad times, how do you preserve them in bad time? The simplest thing is to understand that whether it is a good time or whether it is a bad time, the ultimate relationship between you and them has to be one that is based on honesty. So people will go through tough times with you. They will actually, be able to take it, whatever challenges are thrown at us, they are able to take it as long as you're honest with them. Like in every relationship, and they will stand by your side. So you build the loyalty through the tough times, but you build the love and the service through the good times. And this is basically a pattern that I have observed and worked upon over the years.
So that was in a nutshell, build your leaders in good times, and in difficult times they will be staying with you.
Yes. You start the building in the good times. You be hard in the good times. You lead in the good times. By the time you come to the tougher, more difficult periods of your life, you will be by their side. So you basically stand by them, behind them, and push them through. But during the good times, you have to pull them. And that is the difference. This anger that we are talking about here is basically indignation. It's righteous anger. Are you with me? Why can I not do this?
Okay.
Do you get my point?
Yes.
I've tried to climb the mountain 15 times. I tried to cross this high jump. I reached my limit. I can't cross it again. You do it again and do it again. You fall down, get up again. Fall down, get up again. Try again, try again, try again. There's no shortcut to this process. So that righteous anger, that indignation is on you. Now anger against you, yourself, is perfectly what you need. It's all right. Are you with me? Push yourself to the point that you break. Because you need to break and the muscles need to re-knot, physically and mentally. And it's only when that happens, you will keep pushing and extending, and you will be a different person from who you were. Champions are made out of that. So it is a righteous anger, which is why we call it motivation. That motivates us. Are you with me?
Yes, that's right.
If it's directed against anyone, it's destructive. Even against those that you love. Even if you think you're angry with your children, angry with your brother or sister or whatever, trying to correct them, anger does not help. Now, if it is directed against you, then it's definitely what you need. Most of us are angry against everyone except ourselves. So that's the problem. Easier to get angry against someone else. Now that is a different thing altogether. There are times that you need to show, even as a leader, you have to show that you're angry. But even then, it should be when you're driving a Ferrari. It's like driving a Ferrari. Be very, very cautious. You have to be in control. You can only be angry if you're detached. Anger is not something you need for any particular reason. Everything can be achieved by directing that same energy to passion. See, anger by itself is destructive, but passion is very useful. So turn that anger into passion. You see, And passion achieves results. And in Japanese they have a beautiful word. It is called ikigai.
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 What does that mean, Dato?
Ikigai essentially is not easily translated. And it is a combination of your purpose in life, all right, your passion in life, as well as your commitment, so to speak, your family, your vocation, your service to the community, to the country. All of this will overlap, and right in the center of all that is ikigai. So it is a way of living a nobler life. So to find your ikigai is really the duty of everyone. And when they have the ikigai, they don't need to look at the clock when they come into work. They don't need to look at, no one needs to push you to work, no one needs to drive you, because your ikigai is enough.
It's self-motivation.
It is, yes, it is in essence to find that purpose in your life, right? So ikigai is that purpose, if you were to put it in a milder sense of the word. But if you actually go into it, you can write a whole book on it, on ikigai. Now once you find your purpose, then the next step is giri, also another Japanese word.
Okay.
It is attitude, in a sense. It is that energy that resonates from you when you walk into the room. A person has giri when he walks into a room because he has found his ikigai.
Okay.
Do you get my point?
Yes, that's
so when a samurai goes into battle, so to speak, it is his giri that he sends forward into the battle. So when they actually have this movement, it's called a shadow dancing, in a sense. They call it shadow dancing. Is when they actually move around each other. Two samurai fighters move around each other. They are sending their giri out. Both of them sending their giri out to each other. And by watching the move of a samurai fighter, the other guy sometimes looks at his opponent and sees his movement and sees how fast, and they actually go through these movements to prevent battle.
Okay.
Right? Because they go through it so fast with such blinding speed, this guy says, hey, wait a minute, that I cannot achieve. So he gets a chance at that moment to back out from certain death. So both put their giri forward, you know. They put their giri forward in terms of the stance, the cry, all right, that they give out the war cry, the movements, all of this is their giri. Now, in real life, we have our giris in front of us. Once we find our true ikigai, then the giri becomes real. Without ikigai, what we have in front of us tends to be empty. And usually that's just arrogance. And arrogance is like a paper towel, and just tear away.
Okay.
There is something that I have always talked about in the early days, is the pathway to success. Is something called neutral point of reference. Always seek a neutral point of reference. The fact that you think you're changing doesn't mean you're changing. The reason we exist in a bubble, so to speak, is because in the bubble there's no one telling us who's right or wrong. You see, one of the more important things that happen in life is that, especially during our school days, when we are going through schooling, we have exams. These exams are fundamental goalposts that we have to cross. Are you with me? And these exams are not set by us. So they are neutral points of reference. Are you with me? And until you get a certain result, a certain GPA, a certain number of A's, you don't get into college, you don't get into university, you can't move on. So you are bound by this neutral point of reference. And you have to throw yourself, and we change because these neutral points of reference make us change. The bubble comes afterwards. When we leave our education, our schooling life, start working life, so on and so forth, then we set our own exam paper. That's you talking to yourself. That's you having set the exam, you having marked the paper, you telling yourself, you are in the bubble, you live in the bubble. Are you getting my point? And therefore, unless you want to die in the bubble, you have to live in the world. Now, living in the world means accepting other people, accepting the so-called neutral point of reference. And every neutral point of reference may be dramatically different from your own. But until you meet that qualification, you will find that you're not changing. The only way we change is when we have to meet, challenge and overcome a neutral point of reference. I think the problem is not so much about, quitting, so to speak. I mean, in essence, I think all of us at some point or another fall or fail, and when we fall or fail, it is at that point that we sometimes feel like quitting. So the objective is to recognize that quitting or not quitting is an attitude.
Yes.
So when you haven't yet reached the pinnacle or the peak and you're still struggling to get there, you don't actually think about quitting. Now if you actually change that within you, it's an internal process, it's not an external process. When you say to yourself that, I will reach it, and I will reach it or die, so to speak, then the concept of quit does not really arise. It's just another stop along the way, You fall, you get up again. You fall, you get up again. And you keep on going until you cannot do it anymore. So what would you do when you quit? So someone who's successful is just someone who keeps trying, who never stops. Dead ends are part of the process. You hit a dead end, it's okay to make a U-turn, it's okay to fall down, it's okay to be defeated. Because all of that is progress along the journey. I used to actually call quitting a luxury. Quitting is something that only people who have other recourses, the more wealthy you are, the better family you come from, the easier it is to quit. So it is actually a luxury. You're sitting back and saying, okay, I can quit, therefore I will quit. What about when you have no option? You see, then life will just keep on leading you to a point where you cannot quit on something.
Yes.
You see, even for those who do quit, they quit on different aspects of their life. They will come to a point where they cannot quit. The trick is to recognize that it is ultimately quitting is a message. And the message is try harder. It's as simple as that.
Yes.
Because the actual success of whatever you're doing right now is not the destination. There are so many more successes to go through. And therefore, you need to go through all of these processes. And you have to embrace it. So you only quit when you're not focused enough.
Yes.
When you're not busy enough. When you haven't given 100% anyway, that's when you quit. People who are giving 100% in what they do have no option of quitting. They don't even recognize the word because they're too busy to quit. Are you with me?
Yes.
Hence, that is essentially a mental state of mind that we must aspire to be too busy to quit.
I like it this way.
Just as much as when we built QI. I did not build this by myself. There were so many teams at so many levels. I mean, I owe this to so many people. But what was important was all of the people involved. To take us to where we are today, they had to take ownership. Built to last begins with ownership. And I learned this by watching my architect when he walked around my house. As he walked around the house at different stages, when we were just digging a hole in the ground, and then we were starting to lay the earth, and then starting to put the foundation, and this, that, and the other, he would walk around with the bricklayers, with the gardeners, with the soil, people who bring in the soil, this and that. And to each and every one of them, he would talk about the building that was yet to be. At that point, there was a hole in the ground, and he would talk about the building that was yet to be. And he would do it with such fervor, with such, passion. The passion was catching. So much so, the people who were building the garden, building the brick, laying the brick, putting the cement, this, that, and the other, and later when the house began to take shape, as different people came in, they were all doing it with that passion. They became part of this mansion. Are you getting my point? And they did it, because of his infusion. And what he did was, he was a nag. And what I did was, I was a nag. If we do anything at all today, it's because of our mothers. If you brush your teeth every day before you go to bed at night, that's your mom. If you brush your teeth if you get up in the morning, that's your mom. because she was nagging you all the way through it. Are you with me?
Yes.
So it is now lasting, is it not?
Yes.
Look at how many years you have lived your life, and what your mom basically instilled in you at that point has lasted so many years. And that is essentially it. It became your habit. Are you with me?
Mm-hmm.
And the same habits that we instill, same passion that we instill in others has to build to last. It is the fire that builds to last. It's the vision. If this building that we are in right now is today here, it's because of the passion that began in 1998. And that passion we have to infuse into the network. They have to see the vision. They have to feel the mission. So ultimately the framework that is weaving through all of this is rhythm. See, I totally believe in, I trust in, and I breathe rhythm. And rhythm is what holds us all together. As opposed to me worrying about, physical goals, i.e., should we get, another university, should we get an airline, should we, build a city or whatnot, and so on and so forth. These are to me physical guidelines, physical goals to be hit. To me, that is